Welcome to another episode of The Drop, the weekly show that lets you know the hottest games coming out across the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, the PC, the Switch, and now the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S. Now this is a bit of a lighter week because it is the week of Christmas, so a lot of developers and publishers are taking time off for the holidays, but there are still a couple of games worth mentioning today, as you can see by our headliner Super Meat Boy Forever, which is a pretty big indie for the year. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. Meat Boy and Bandage Girl have grown as a couple since 2010. It seems like only yesterday the two lovebirds were escaping from an exploding laboratory in the sky. Now, it's the current year, and they've welcomed their daughter Nugget into the world. Their peaceful days enjoying life as a family came to an abrupt end when Dr. Fetus beat the snot out of them with a rusty shovel and kidnapped Nugget. Now it's up to Meat Boy and Bandage Girl to rescue their daughter from a lunatic fetus in a jar that can only be described as an incel version of Tony Stark. Super Meat Boy Forever is the sequel to Super Meat Boy. This is a new experience that eclipses the original, but don't stare directly at it unless you have your Eclipse glasses on. 7,200 individually handcrafted levels combine dynamically to give you a new challenge every single time you play. 7,200 levels. They said we couldn't do it, but we did. Who's they? Don't ask. They don't like it when you ask. It's hard but fair, and nothing in life worth having comes easy. Just ask Dark Soul Man. Meat Boy and Bandage Girl can fight back. It's time to unleash the raw fury of parenthood on their foes, just like Liam Neeson in that documentary about his family vacation in Paris. Bigger boss battles than before. Your mind will be blown. Your socks will be blown off. And Team Meat is not liable for any of this. Brand new art with stunning detail and resolution. There are a lot of pixels in here. Grab the biggest display you have and watch those dots change color rapidly with gumption. Don't sit too close though. But if your parents aren't home, you can sit as close as you want. We won't tell, but Team Meat is still not liable for any of this. A soundtrack composed by Ridiculon is so intense that the state of Wyoming has issued a ban on all audio devices capable of playing it out of fear that just a single note will cause the dormant supervolcano beneath Yellowstone to erupt, ushering in a new age of darkness. Frame by frame, artisan crafted in-game animations and animated cutscenes that will make you experience procedurally generated emotions. A story so rich and moving that it makes Citizen Kane look like an unboxing video for a dehumidifier, and never put the word forever in a video game. It's a haunted word. That's actually a bullet point on their list. If you can't tell already, the creator behind these games has a lot of humor baked into the writing that goes into Super Meat Boy and Super Meat Boy Forever. But for those not familiar with this game, it was one of the biggest games that emerged during the Xbox Live Summer of Arcade back on the Xbox 360. And so whenever that game really began to take off, it became the platformer, and it became synonymous with indie games because it was such a high quality game from such a small team. And so as time went on, it became one of those legendary titles, and when people think about high quality platformers, a lot of people think about Super Meat Boy. Of course it has its flaws, but when it comes to arcade style platforming, it's second to none, and Super Meat Boy Forever captures more of that. Now of course this is a much larger game, 7,200 levels, there is plenty to do here, and you are going to be busy for quite some time. But if you do want to dive in, Super Meat Boy Forever is coming out this week on the Nintendo Switch as a console exclusive and also on PC. Next up, Override 2 Super Mech League is coming out on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. The gigantic robot brawler is meching a supercharged comeback, god I hate that, in Override 2 Super Mech League. 7 years after the xenotypes that invaded Earth have been eradicated, the giant mechs that were once the planet's defenders are now their entertainers in global mech battle leagues. As a new pilot of these repurposed weapons of war, climb the ranks and represent your club with a tuned-up roster of returning and new mechs, each with their own unique abilities, moves, and supercharged attacks. Override 2 Super Mech League is playable both in single-player and multiplayer campaigns for up to 4 players locally and online in stages set all over the world. Start as a new pilot and propel yourself through the ranks in a deep and robust career mode, join mech leagues, and earn reputation by competing in arenas located across the globe. Duke it out with a tuned-up roster of returning robots and new mechs across various versus and co-op game modes of up to 4 players online and locally. Defeat your opponents using an arsenal of unique moves, including supercharged ranged attacks, metal-busting combos, or an arena-shattering ultimate attack. When it comes to Override 2, I'm not going to lie. doesn't really blow me away. You know, you're checking out the gameplay to my left, your right, ultimately just really a basic kind of giant mech brawler. And I think the thing that bothers me the most about this gameplay is the fact that while you are supposedly a giant defender of Earth, there doesn't really feel to be any scale in the world. There's just a couple of houses from time to time. It doesn't really feel like you're a giant mech, but I digress. If you want to check it out, Override 2 Super Mech League is coming out on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC this week. Now, to round out today's show, Sephiroth is coming to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate on Nintendo Switch if you do want to check out the newest DLC fighter and all of the new bells and whistles and accoutrements that come with that. But before we actually conclude, I do want to say this is a very light week, and of course the next week is going to be light as well, because generally the publishers and developers are gearing up for what is to come in 2021. But this is the perfect time to dig back into that backlog. We've been talking about games that are launching each week throughout the entirety of 2020, so you have plenty to play. And even if you haven't bought a single new game this year, I guarantee you there's a bit of a backlog. You can dive back in, revisit a favorite, find something to play that you might have forgotten about, because this is the perfect time of the year to catch up on something that you might have missed or that you have been meaning to get back to. So if you haven't found anything this week on the show, dig back into that back catalog, find something that tickles your fancy. But that rounds out today's episode of The Drop. If you enjoyed today's show, drop me a like down below and let me know what you are playing over the course of the next couple of weeks. Are you playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, getting into Call of Duty, playing Demon's Souls on PlayStation 5 maybe, or checking out Miles Morales? Or if you're digging back into a game from 5, 10, 15, even 20 years ago, let me know down below. But until next time, you guys have a fantastic week, and if I don't see you before the holidays, have a fantastic time with friends and family. If you're virtually visiting or socially distancing, I do hope you find some joy in the season. But peace.